was forged from the worst of the Depression era, a child of immigrant sensibilities, passionate to move beyond the confines of the New York Jewish ghetto. She was a daring woman, a tall blonde who worked hard and used her beauty and sense of style to escape poverty. She met my grandfather at age 16 when she crashed a frat party at NYU. The aspiring model artist married the businessman, and they moved to the suburbs. This was in the 1950s, when Long Island was considered America's frontier. By the 1970s, my grandfather's entrepreneurial efforts were paying off financially. His claim to fame being the fiberglass company that helped craft the blue whale that now hangs at the American Museum of Natural History. My mother was a bit indulged by this new wealth. Only 12 at the time of Woodstock, she would have been the perfect Trustafarian flower child had she been born only a decade earlier. Beautiful but insecure, extraordinarily book-smart but not always street-smart, my mother went off to Arizona at age 16 to begin college. It was in Arizona that she met my dad, a Saudi sheik whose immense wealth came from oil. Well, that's what he told her on one of their first meetings. In reality, he was a humble Mexican-American from a tiny mining town called Miami, Arizona. What started out as friendship evolved into a casual relationship, conducted mostly through letters while he was in the Marines. After a brief time, my mom, impulsive, caught up in the idea of romance, accepted my father's proposal. But with one legal document, I was no longer Sarah Escobedo, that white Mexican from Arizona. I was Sarah Jacobs, the Jewish girl on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. Years later, it would be anthropology that would help me knit together my heritage. During my second year of college, I spent a semester in an anthropology and archaeology program in Mexico, where I ended up volunteering at a bright and cheery orphanage that was woefully understaffed. Aside from the intense experience of caring for dozens of babies, ranging in age from newborn to 3, I was able to hone and direct my sociological interest. The children of Casa del Sol were given up for many reasons, but what struck me most were the mothers, too poor to feed another mouth, who came to say farewell to children they would never see again, and in many cases didn't want to give up. These mothers, many of whom were part of disenfranchised indigenous communities, had little control over their reproductive destinies. Access to contraceptives, contraceptive information, or even the power to decide when, how often, and with whom to sexually engage are sadly not rights afforded to every woman. In the disempowerment I witnessed at Casa del Sol, I could see the real-life struggles of inequality that were the discourse of my studies. This was no textbook or seminar. Here, in front of me, were tremendous hardship and sorrow. Sex was no longer just an act. Its implications were knit into much larger dialogues. I would later understand these connections to be the backbone of much more sophisticated conversations, but they were revelations for me, then a sophomore in college. My time in Mexico and my experiences at Casa del Sol changed me. I decided to dedicate the next 2 years of my life to the study of gender, race, and social structures. With this new momentum and incentive, I directed the rest of my undergraduate studies to the broad topic of gender. And now, in my first year in New York, I had stumbled upon a place, a cultural institution, solely dedicated to looking at sex and gender. What was I waiting for? I handed my resume to the guy behind the front desk, the same guy who'd sold me a ticket a month earlier. I didn't even ask if they were hiring or specify what type of position I wanted. Professional, right? I never really expected a callback. A few weeks later, Nick and I were visiting his parents in New Jersey. We sat in the backyard as I hand-painted one of his surfboards. This was all part of another one of my plans to set up a surf design company, move to Hawaii, and live out a